Today is a very special topic. Positive plus a positive will always give you a positive answer. An example of positive 3 plus positive 3. Now this is where the problem normally is. Once you understand the concept behind this middle 2, that is it. You've understood this concept. When you have two positives in the middle, this results in 2. So we shall have this. Two positives in the middle will result into one positive. So at last you're going to have this. Positive 3 plus positive 3, which will be positive 6. That's why a positive plus a positive will always be a positive. Let's have a look at the second. A negative plus a negative will equal a negative. We shall always be dealing with these two signs in the middle. So in this case, let's have the number negative 3 plus negative 3. The two signs in the middle are positive. The two signs in the middle are positive and a negative. Whenever you have a positive and a negative sign in the middle, the resulting answer will always come out negative. So in this case, we are going to have negative 3. The answer from these two will be negative 3. So that we are going to have negative 3 minus 3. You just go 3 steps, and then you go another 3 steps, so this will be negative 6. A positive plus positive equals positive, and negative plus negative equals negative. These are the only two that keep their signs. The rest, they don't keep their sign. They depend on the number which is bigger, either the positive or the negative. The higher one, the bigger one will always take the sign. We have the third one, negative plus a positive. The fourth one will be positive plus negative. The fifth one will be negative minus negative. And the sixth one will be positive minus positive. Now all these four take the sign of the number that is bigger, either the positive one or the negative one. And I'm going to give you examples to work out all this to show. Let's give an example for the first number. We have negative 3 plus positive 4. Our focus will always be on those two signs in the middle. We have to make sure we come out with one resultant sign from the middle. So we are going to keep this negative 3. Positive times positive will always be positive, so plus 4. Now when you have two numbers, the big one always takes the sign. In this case, we have positive 4 and negative 3. The big one is 4, so 4 takes the sign. So we are going to have, we just subtract this 3 from this 4, so we are going to have positive 1. In case we had this same number, but this time in case this was maybe negative 5, we keep this the same, plus positive 3. The one in the middle is what we do. So we're going to have negative 5. The resultant is positive plus 3. So in this case, we have negative 5 is bigger, so it's going to take the side of negative 5. We just subtract this 3 from this, but this time keep the negative sign. So 5, take away 3. This time it will be 2, but 2 will be negative. Let's look at number 4. Assuming we have a number positive 3 plus negative 2. What will this be? We're going to have, our focus will always be in those two numbers in the middle. Where there is positive and negative, the resultant will always be a negative. So we have positive 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2, that will be positive 1. But in case this number was positive 2 plus negative 3, what will this be? We look at the 2 in the middle, the resultant will always be negative. So now we shall have positive 2 minus 3. The bigger number will always take the sign. So in this case, we have 3 is the one that has the negative sign and is the bigger one. So we are going to have 3 minus 2, that will be 1. But this time the 1 will be negative because 3 is bigger than 2. It's like subtracting 2 from 3, but this time you keep the sign of 3. Let's look at 5. So negative 3 minus negative 2. We take this, we are here. We take this in the middle. When there are two negatives in the middle, it becomes positive. Negative times negative will be positive. So negative 3 plus 2 this time. So negative 3 plus 2, that will be negative 1. It will take the sign of the bigger one. Assuming this was negative 2 minus 3. This will change negative 2. This will change to positive plus 3. This time 3 is bigger, so it takes the sign of 3. Let's look at the last one. Let's give an example for the last one. 6. Assuming we have positive 3 minus positive 4. We have two signs in the middle. Negative times a positive, that will be negative. So we shall have positive 3 minus 4. 4 minus 3, that will be 1. But this time it takes the sign of the bigger number. Assuming we have positive 4 minus plus 3. We deal with these two signs. Negative and a positive will always be negative. So plus 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3, that will be positive 1. It always takes the sign of the bigger number. Once you get this concept, that is the end of it on addition and subtraction. Now let's look at multiplication and division. Let's see how it works. Negative times a negative, that will be positive. Positive times a positive, that will be positive. Negative times a positive will be negative. And then positive times negative will be negative. This is the only concept. It is the same for division and it is the same for multiplication. It's all the same. This one can still apply. It can either be division or multiplication. Division or multiplication. Division or multiplication. Just substitute these two with either division or multiplication. Negative divided by negative, that will be positive. Negative times negative will be positive. Positive divided by positive will be positive. Positive multiplied by positive will always be positive. This is the only one where you have to keep, because negative divided by positive will always be negative. Positive divided by negative will always be negative. Positive multiplied by negative will always be negative. The negative one is a stronger sign. That's why it always powers off the positive sign. So wherever you're multiplying negative with positive, it will always be negative. Wherever you're multiplying, wherever you're dividing a negative with a positive, or dividing a positive by a negative, the answer will always be negative, because the negative one is a stronger sign. Now, these are practical numbers I want us to work out and see how the positive and the negative side integrate into it. Let's look at the first one. Positive 2 minus 7. I said this time the bigger number will take the sign. So in this case it will seem like we are subtracting 2 away from 7. But this time we keep the sign of 7. In this case it is negative. So 7 minus 2, that will be 5. But this time 7 is the bigger one and the sign is negative. So 2 minus 7 will be negative 5. Negative 4 plus 6. It will be like 6 minus 4. This one will be 2. And we keep the sign of the bigger number, which is positive. Negative 4 minus 1. So this will be negative 5. Now, with smaller numbers, it is very easier to use number line. But when it comes to bigger numbers, it is somehow hard. That is why it is very important you learn how to subtract them and keep the sign of the bigger number. So in this case, we're going to subtract 56 minus 89. 9 minus 6, that will be 3. 8 minus 5, that will be 3. But this time we keep the sign of the bigger number. we have negative 102 plus 217. In this case, we see the bigger number is 217. So we subtract this away from it, but we keep the sign, which is positive. 7 minus 2, that will be 5. 1 minus 0, that will be 1. 2 minus 1, that will be 1. So our final answer will be positive 115. Now here, there are two signs in the middle, positive and negative. I said when there are two signs, the resultant side will always be negative because it is stronger. So in this case, we are going to have negative 4 minus 8. Here is like we are adding them together. So we shall have 4 plus 8, that will be 12. But this time, their sign is negative. So we keep this negative 12. Let's look at number 8. This time we are dividing a negative by a positive. So in this case, 20 divided by 4, 1 by 4, 5. So this will be negative 5 out of positive 1, which is the same as negative 5, because negative 5 is stronger, it takes the sign. Now here we are multiplying. We say the negative times a negative, that will always be positive. And then we multiply these two numbers. 6 times 9, that will be 54. Now we come to multiply this one. Negative times a negative, that will be positive. Positive times a negative, that will be negative. So there are three negatives here. When you have three negatives, the resultant answer will always be negative. Because negative times negative, this will be positive. Now positive times this negative, that will be negative. So we shall have negative. Then 3 times 2, that will be 6. 6 times 5, that will be 30. So our final answer will be negative 30. Negative divided by a negative, that will be positive. By 4, 1. 88 by 4, that will be 22. So our final answer here will be positive 22.